Welcome in to the Tuesday, July 6th Fun Astrology podcast. Thomas Miller, thanks for joining us. We're going to try to sneak a listener question in here that's a good one of some of the things that we talked about yesterday, of these strange, bizarre things going on under this Saturn-Mars opposition. Both of those squared to Uranus. Really, you almost have to put them as one. And some weird stuff has been happening around the world. And this was a great call about add another log to that fire. Today's Luna is in Gemini, early parts of Gemini, 5 degrees as we're getting the day started this morning. So we have a chatty moon for the next 2 days. And speaking of chatty, that's the other aspect in the sky this morning, is chatty Mercury is in a square with philosophical and spiritual Neptune in Pisces. So what we might expect from that is, especially under this lunar stimulation, is quite a focus on things related to communication, talking, interpreting talking. So with Neptune, obviously, I think if you've been listening to this for any length of time, you know that we put the Neptunian characteristics and the Mercurial characteristics together, and we get two sides of a coin. So on the one side of the coin, let's say the shadow side first, so we finish on a high, right? Then we could have things like fuzzy, distorted, vague, misinterpreted, confused kind of communication. Those shadowy sides of Neptune. Illusion, delusion, fogginess. And I think with that we could say a big misinterpretation, like something that we say or intend could just get communicated totally wrong. Now, the positive side of that, though, is that we could have, obviously, a heightened. Now, let's think about this from the standpoint of Mercury not only being the mind, but also being our inspiration. Why do I say that? Because the communication that is often the most important is what we say to ourselves. So this could be a moment of inspiration, intuition. Let's don't forget about intuition. This could be heightened intuition over this transit, which will move fairly quickly, but we've got this week to play with it. So if we play on the conscious creator side, then we can create this heightened intuition, this heightened inspiration, this heightened creativity. Been stuck on a project, been stuck on needing an answer for something? Here's your aspect. But if something just comes up out of the blue and somehow our communication is grossly misinterpreted, well, we could put that under the category of synchronicities, and we could just follow that trail as to the soul journey that is supposed to come from that.
I got to my mom's house and the news was on, and the headline was that Bill Cosby, I guess, has been acquitted or released or whatever from all the madness because of the things with the Me Too and the this and the that. And I'm just laughing because I thought to myself, well, that's weird. And here we are with you explaining that some weird ass is going to go down. And I believe that is one of the things. Sending you much love and appreciation. Talk soon.
I love this. That's from Sophie. Sophie called in the moment, see, so that she was right in the middle of listening to the podcast and stopped to call the line because she was just captivated. Of course, this came in last week, that we were sitting there talking about weird stuff getting ready to uncork, and she walked into her mom's house and saw the story last week about Bill Cosby. And, you know, we could even put this Mercury-Neptune that we just talked about under this umbrella of Saturn, Mars, Uranus, because everything's kind of affected right now. So this got me thinking about a couple of other things, and I want to maximize our time here. But when I was a young cub reporter just out of college, the TV station that I went to work for assigned me to cover a trial. It was a big trial. It was a big story. It involved the Speaker of the House in Oklahoma, who was on trial for vote fraud charges. And from what I saw in the trial and the verdict, the rapid unanimous verdict, you know, there was a preponderance of evidence and he was voted guilty. Well, it was a couple of years later, a judge unwound the whole thing and he walked free. So I got a pretty good dose of this in my 20s to have a jaded perspective on. And see, we could have a big conversation right here about Neptune and Pisces, because look at some of these other structures that have been being exposed during this transit, which goes all the way until January of 2026, until it finally leaves Pisces and goes into Aries. And I think that's actually key as we think about this, and I'll come back to that in a second. But just here's a really quick list. Obviously, the Me Too, the Cosby thing that she mentions, which we saw with Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, the murder around that probably. I mean, suicide, okay. Let me see if I can find the deed to that swampland in Louisiana. You know what I'm talking about. We've had the casting couch for centuries, decades at least, but centuries probably. And, as I was making notes on this, I thought, isn't it something else that we humans have so corrupted something that can be so beautiful? And couldn't we also even apply that to the earth? I mean, I don't care what side of climate change you're on. Isn't it time that we stop polluting the earth? When you go on a hike like I did over the weekend and you see as they call it up here, the volatile organic compounds that come out of these abundant canopies of trees in North Carolina. And that's why the mountains are blue, is because those VOCs, those compounds, block the blue light. And you think about pure oxygen and then know what we do to the planet. And these governmental structures, the lies, the deception. We've been being lied to for so long that maybe now the mask is starting to come off. Another area that I thought of was religion. The Vatican story over the weekend. Statistically, 25% fewer people are going to church than they did 20 years ago, according to Gallup. And the internet. Oh, we could go on forever about this one, right? But what about the hacks and the intrusions and the stealing cryptocurrency and, the internet that used to be so good and such a great source of information now is basically just a troll of perspectives, one side or the other, full of pop-ups. You're bombarded with ads that you can't even read an article. I mean, why put a website up and put an article up there for people to read and then slap something on top of it that people can't read? I just leave anymore. I just leave. So, this is a real human dilemma. And like I said, I think that maybe the solution to this is going to be coming more with Neptune in Aries, which it first sticks its toe into in March of 2025, moves back into Pisces under retrograde, and then fully into Aries in January of 2026. So I think that maybe more uncovering until then, more disclosure, more dribbling it out. And then finally, the collective consciousness will say, that's it. We have had enough. Now, that may happen sooner, but it just seems like this pattern of dribbling this stuff out. So it might be a little bit of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps back, 1 step forward. So whatever your position on the Cosby release is, I even saw there were headlines of people who were happy about it. But the point is, for right now, nobody's going to do a darn thing about it. We roll our eyes, we sigh. We do like Sophie did. We call the podcast, and get it off our chest for a brief second, and then we go on. We don't do anything. And if we don't do anything, it just continues. That's more of Neptune and Pisces. I think once we get Neptune in Aries, the foot will go down and things will start to get done. And actually, that will be right after Pluto moves into Aquarius. So we do have some interesting days ahead of us, folks. This is a great time to be learning and studying astrology because the corporate mundane astrology that we're following here is something that is going to be changing quite a bit over the next 10 years. Thank you so much, Sophie. Always love hearing from you guys. We'll get to more this week, hopefully. Have a great Tuesday, and I'll see you back for Hump Day.